My name's Keith Hammond. I'm the assistant winemaker for a winery in Sebastopol called Emeritus Vineyards. We're a Pinot Noir producer. We're entirely estate grown, which is kind of fun. The Admio team was nice enough to loan us a unit that we're going to see, and I had it for I think about 2 weeks and was able to play with it and run some analysis, and more than happy to tell everyone about my experience with it. So I'm, not an expert with the device, but I did get to sort of play around with it and run a few different assays, and as well as, compare the results to the traditional methods that we're using in our lab. And so I definitely noticed a few very distinct advantages to this device. For one, it's very, very, very simple. I know that when I first learned to do classic enzymatic analysis with, usual spectrophotometer that you'd find in some labs, God, I screwed it up. I don't know how many times until I was confident that I was doing it the right way, yeah. And those enzymes are expensive. And so, it took me a really long time to do. And, with this device and sort of the way that the software is set up, you could probably, give it to someone and explain nothing. And, maybe after one or maybe two tries, they would be off to the races and doing analysis. So yep. From a simplistic standpoint, it's very, very advantageous. If you're not, particularly adept in the lab, or your pipetting skills need a bit of work, this is super simple. You can grab anybody from the cellar, and in a few minutes they're going for it. So I think this device serves kind of an underserved part of it, which is sort of the smaller wineries usually. It does have some applications for larger wineries, but I think mostly this is going to do really well with the smaller wineries where they don't want to invest in 5 different pieces of equipment, and they just want one device that can do all the things that they're interested in. And it's the people who designed this, I think, really kind of nailed it, because it's very affordable and it's very easy to use. So I think those are the two biggest sort of selling points that it has. It does come with a tablet that is, if you're not used to using that operating system, it will be a little bit different. There will be a slight learning curve. Nothing's complicated about it, but if you're used to, a different operating system, and you're easily frustrated by, using a new type of device, that could potentially be a thing. But again, if you, use it for a little bit, it's not a problem. Essentially, one well for the cuvette. So it's sort of one at a time. But this is one of the questions that I had, because obviously speed is always a factor and time is always a factor, particularly when you're in harvest and you're doing overtime and everyone's tired and you want to be precise. Yeah. So they also have an option for this other device that they refer to as the heating block, I think is what you guys call it, which essentially keeps all of your samples at the temperature that they need to be when the time for analysis comes. And so that element of it is also, I found to be really important, because you can have essentially all of your samples kind of ready to go, and then you just one by one put them in the device, hit start, and it gives you the reading. So yep. I found that to be a very cool option to go along with it. I also really kind of liked that just the way that you can see on the screen here, where it shows you, what analysis has been done, and you can sort of click on them and all of your results are right there, because sometimes even just entering data is, just as time consuming as anything else sometimes. So it's kind of nice to have everything right there. I do hope that at some point in the future, they find it financially viable to make it adaptable to some other systems. For example, to, export data into Excel, or, yep. or work with, desktop features, or, the Mac OS or things like that. So, I know it's a new product and they're sort of just kind of feeling things out. It seems like, from what I've heard from Mads, is that the development team is very receptive to, people's needs and the suggestions that they have, because everybody kind of has different concerns depending on what part of the industry you're in, what part of the world you're in, yeah. Et cetera, et cetera. So Yeah, just to kind of conclude, I found it to be a really useful, very simple, very user-friendly device. And when I was, comparing it, for example, I was doing some, I think I was doing some ethanols, and I was comparing it to some of the other results I had. And it was, I kind of found myself trusting this device a little bit more than the biometer, and so when I ran this as well, compared to some free sulfurs, I did a lot of free sulfurs because that's an analysis that I run with frequency. They were very, very close, within the margin of error, within, 1 or 2 ppm. So, I'm sure my hand titration is a lot less precise than this device was. So if you're a one-man show and you're doing everything by yourself and you don't want to invest in, 8 or 9 or 10 different pieces of equipment and you just want one thing, it's a really great option, I think.
So thank you. Really, really, really good.